Hello and welcome back to Wine and Wine, where we're on to the black portion of our set review of Innistrad Midnight Hunt with me, your host Sam Loy, and my co-host, the lovely Russell Cutting. How are we doing, Russell?
Well, how are you?
Oh, I'm not so bad. I have my second dose of the sludge right here. The wine is going well, and who could want more than that in talking about magic? So,
Good magic.
good magic. So, the first card we have is the Meat Hook Massacre, which is an immediate flavor win for me. Kind of creepy and gross, and I love it.
One of the best names ever on a magic
So
card.
good. TMM.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Russell?
Few thoughts. Besides flavor, as at least slamming at home, legendary enchantment should be noted, so you can't do multiple of these things. If you are looking at the historic format and you are aware of the Vesperlark combo that has needed to play kind of like Blood Artist and a couple of other less than ideal cards, this is the answer and might make that deck in historic actually the real deal.
I didn't think of that deck. That's a good call out, Russell. I hate that deck.
I know.
I always lose game one because I don't know what they're doing. They're doing some janky stuff, and I'm like not playing around it. And
this does a lot of stuff. It either acts as a, like, if you're looking at a control shell of this deck, it acts as an Infest Wrath of God, quote unquote, but also allows for that turn 3 win. You play this on 2 for like X equals 0, who cares? And then you can evoke the Vesperlark and in response Davriel's Withering and win the game on the spot. Being an enchantment, it's a lot harder to interact with than Blood Artist has been, so I think that is the most poignant thing for historic. Bullshit aside, this is still a very interesting card. It is maybe slightly worse or on par with Black Sun Zenith, which we've seen in the past.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, it does stuff. I mean, like at 4 mana as an infest, but like it can gain and lose some life. Absolutely. In control decks or ramp decks, it is very scalable. Anything expel, I'm always interested in because they are modal and can act very differently depending on the game state. It has very synergistic techs. It is an engine in itself. Really good card. Love it.
I think it interacts also just like notably interacts pretty well with Lurrus. In all the formats.
Cheesy Pete's. Holy smokes. Okay, I didn't think of that one.
Because it is a permanent and it legend rules itself, so you can then Lurrus.
You can have 2 of them and just flip them.
If you go X equals 2, you kill your own Lurrus, so perhaps maybe not that big of a deal. But the impact is there as well. Great card, huge flavor win, and the perfect example of a card that does not require any flavor text to get the message across.
It is all flavor.
All flavor.
All flavor, yeah.
All right, so coming up next, we have the Corpse Bride, my best girl of Innistrad. Sorry, Liliana. We have Gissa, Glorious Resurrector. So this
Liliana's not native to Innistrad, so
I know, but she feels at home there and all the rest.
Giza is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I particularly like this card, and I actually didn't think about how powerful it was because the art was so good. If anyone can have a look at the original piece of this, it's an oil on canvas. It's it's immaculate. It's really good, and there's a lot of finer details there if you get the bigger image of it that you'll start to pick out, which is just really cool, including her holding the cleaver and the bag full of hands. Just a really big...
It's a shovel.
No, the other hand has a cleaver.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Case in point. So, yeah, really cool card. And it wouldn't need to be good for me to be a fan of it just because the art's so nice. I also think this card is actually pretty good. When I actually got back and read the fact that it was a 4-mana 4/4 and it had the text that it does, it's actually pretty good. So basically this is a good example of our decay mechanic. Makes a token of creatures your opponent controls which die, and then that creature token has decay, which means that if you attack at the end of combat, it dies, sacrifices itself, and then it cannot block. I think that this is one of those weird mid-rangey black cards that needs to stay in play, which previous Innistrad sets have actually provided us really good versions of. I don't know how super effective this card's going to be, but I imagine as a 2-of in some mid-range black decks, this might actually be a very played card in Standard.
Yeah, I very much agree with everything, including that placement of the 2-of in some decks. I misread this card to begin with. I have always thought it like it should be a 3/3, but a 4/4 is a lot better than a 3/3. So sizing on this is extremely on rate.
Especially for a black card, right? Like black cards are
for
generally
black cards,
6/6s with downside or below stats. Yeah.
On or slightly above rate for the mana cost. And then 2 extremely relevant abilities, although one is only fed by the other. Like, it is obviously reliant on your opponent's creatures dying, but we're in a set that is going to provide creatures that can be flashbacked, morphed to their double, their other side via the graveyard. This removes that. And for your Commander fans out there, the fact that it puts it into play, it's not just a 2/2 zombie with decay, it returns that creature. So everything with come into play abilities, activated and triggered abilities, all that sort of stuff comes in. So it does have, I think it will be a standard 2-of in some decks, and I certainly see it coming into that more casual space of Commander, both of them as very relevant and quite powerful cards. And Giza, I think her second, well, I don't count Giza and Geralf combined as Giza, but in her second iteration, her first iteration was very good as a Commander exclusive card, as her first actual foray into Standard. My gosh.
Yeah, we're finally getting the legends from the first Innistrad block, which were flavor text exclusive legends, into Standard. They've seen their way into Commander before. Well, Issa and Geralf have, and Ludovic makes his debut in this set as well. So interesting stuff, and really cool from a flavor perspective if you've been following along for a long time. I mean, this art though, it just kills me. How good this is.
So good. Yeah. And she's just cackling maniacally. Yeah, with the beautiful stained glass in the background as well.
Yeah, just do yourself a solid if you haven't. Check out a high-res version of this image, or I think that the actual piece itself, the original piece, is on auction at the moment that we're talking about this. I cannot afford it, unfortunately.
It will break your bank.
Original Magic Arts are ridiculous. For sure. It is, in the many tens of thousands of dollars at this point already. Anyway, it's just a really very cool piece, and a big fan of it.
Let's clock on.
All right. So something which has way worse art. This might be the worst art in the set.
This looks like an MF Paint picture.
I mean, I'm sure that was it Kari Christensen? I'm
sorry, but
I actually, it's just a weird piece of art, right? The background is actually a lot better detailed than the foreground,
and then the cutout with the curtains. Of the top corners.
Oh yeah. That's weird.
I can't quite. And it's the cutout makes kind of black and looks like it should be a showcase piece, but then it's all just orange.
Yeah, I'm sure whoever painted this had some weird direction.
A bad brief. Feels like a bad brief.
Or a bad brief or something like that. I wouldn't put it on them, but no. I will be altering mine to remove the first S. The first S, I should say. So it's a laughter specialist. But I think this card's quite good.
Yeah, contextual, I think. Above rate, 2-mana 3/3 with a drawback, quote unquote, giving them the token. But then when the token dies, blah blah blah, but it does give an opportunity for double blocks. I think if we have suitable removal that can potentially remove 2 creatures at a time, or something like that can remove the downside, that if there's enough removal to kill 2 power creatures, if they double block and you can kill the 2 power creature and then get the bump or something, You are in Gravy Town. It doesn't have evasion, but it's above rate. Black, I think, is lacking a little bit in this set, and this is one of the higher end cards, but
It's also a
it's
vampire.
pretty good. Huh?
It's also a vampire and it's also a warrior, and
Yes.
they're both
Yes.
relevant creature types.
Yeah.
And I think that the downside's pretty negligible, I would say. I think that the upside of the counters is better than the downside of giving them the creature, and
Yes.
giving them the creature can work towards helping you realize the upside. So I like this card. I like it to be standard playable. I don't expect it to be good every time it's cast, because it does have I would say like a high ceiling but a low floor. But overall, I think Black needs this, and it's going to be good.
I think we also have to, I put this in here because the next set is meant to be Vampire Focus, which will be in black and red. So when Vampire is set to be the next dominant tribe, this feels like a bit of a precursor. And while it might not have immediate impact, I fully expect in a couple of months when we start to see the Crimson Moon previews to come in, the focal point to come towards this and another card we'll see a bit later, which is also, I feel, an above rate vampire.
Cool. All right. Absolutely. Can't agree more. All right. So next up, we have Jadar, Gulkoa of Nephalia. This is a card that I liked a lot more than Russell did, and I ended up amending this to put it in. It reminds me a lot of Ophiomancer, which is, if anyone remembers, is a 3-mana 2/2 that makes a snake at every end step. This one requires you, and it has the same condition, I should say, Ophiomancer, that if you already have one, you don't get to have another one. I think that this works really well with the decay mechanic, that you can throw that 2/2 away if you want, just for the value or whatever. But also that if there are any sacrifice synergies in this standard format, which may not, generally those decks don't appear until we have a few more sets, but if that appears at some point, this gives you a free creature to sacrifice every turn, and also that it immediately gives you the value. You don't have to wait until upkeep to get the value, which is a really big difference with these cards. If they say upkeep, they're normally significantly worse than if they say, end step. So, Russell, you didn't feel as positive about this card as me. So, what's your perspective?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I agree with basically everything you said there. Obviously, end step is quite a lot better as it doesn't require a full rotation in order to get the advantage. But with these cards and cards like it, like Ophiomancer and the like, the quality of the token, I feel, when the shtick of the card is a recurring token generator with no cost, the quality of the token is, in my head, equal to the power level of the card, and a 2/2 that cannot block, that can attack but then dies immediately, I feel can be outscaled quite quickly. And Ophiomancer, the best part about it is it's a 1/1 death touch. So you can attack with it, and if they block you get that trade-up advantage and will immediately replace the token. And then if you have sacrifice outlets, you get the free point of damage and then can have it replaced. Or it can be an extremely good defensive threat. But it is cheaper than Ophiomancer. If you build your deck around it, or if you have the right tools around it to make the best of the sacrificial token, it is on equal ground or higher. So, maybe we're spoiled with, I don't think we've actually had a card as powerful as this or comparable to Ophiomancer in a standard set. Ophiomancer being a commander.
It's a commander exclusive, yeah.
Which is in cube, which I'm used to playing with in a high level cube, where it is good in a high level cube. And we're talking some of the best cards of Magic. And for this to be even comparable, I suppose I have to give ground and say that it must at least be playing, in the big kids pool. I think that as well. I think that your discussion of the downsides of it are very relevant. It certainly skews towards offense more than defense, but a 1/1 death touch and a 2/2 that sacrifices itself are talking about different realms of contextual power level. This does cost 1 less, but it is legend and all the rest of it. So my argument around this card is mostly based on
it seeing play because of synergies based around what it can do. Whereas Ophiomancer famously can be played in basically any deck that can cast things with black mana symbols. So, we're two sides of the same coin on this one, and we'll just have to see where we land on it. And I don't think either of us would be surprised to be slightly off on this.
I fully, maybe not expect, but I think that it has a role player status as a 1 or 2 of in a deck that supports it, and it being an extremely solid role player in that deck. Like, its effect is unique and powerful. It just needs the support cards. I don't think it can stand on its own.
Cool. All right. All right. So moving on, another card that requires some synergy to get played. We have Lord of the Forsaken, which this is a very mythic card, and it's nice that when mythics are mythics. So we have standard demon stats 6/6/6, and flying trample as always. I think that the only relevant piece of this card is the last effect, which is pay 1 life, add colorless mana, spend this mana only to cast a spell from your graveyard. So obviously this has some synergy for some stuff that we've already seen in flashback or whatever. But I don't think that this investment, the 6 mana investment, is worth it unless we're going off. We need to be comboing off with this. And I mean, the good news is that there's artifact strategies which for their one other color, they play colorless for the most part. The one other color tends to be black in a bunch of formats. So if we're in that space, this card, with the right synergy pieces, could be a great way of ending the game a little sooner, or all the rest of it. It's not going to be a Storm-like combo, but it is going to maybe close the door a little bit sooner than it would otherwise be closed. And that can be very relevant in powerful formats. But apart from that, this is just not going to get us there on just the straight power level, I don't think, Russell.
Yeah, so when I put together the kind of list that we're basing this presentation off of, I was struggling a lot more in white, blue, and black. This being, I suppose, a quote-unquote werewolf set, you would expect the power level to lie in the red and green cards, which I'm sure we'll discuss at great length later. So this was me trying to find a 5th card, and again, like Sam, it was that pay 1 life to add 1 mana. This is certainly a powerful effect, paying life for mana, breaking the rules of Magic intrinsically, but they have, again, thankfully put a safety valve on it. But I suppose why we brought this card up is it only takes one design mistake in the future for this to be busted wide open. If there comes a card that allows you to cast artifacts from your graveyard, I'm not sure if there is, I haven't looked up too much, maybe there already exists a card like this in a weird obscure thing that will completely destroy Commander, I'm not quite sure at this point, but anything with that kind of line of text, like we've seen this before with like Death Run Ogre, where it's like pay 3 life to add a red mana, or pay X life to add O mana, and that's for any color. Those cards are busted. This has the caveat of only being able to affect the graveyard, but if you have some way to turn that on, things will go awry quite quickly. But otherwise, an unimpressive card, but it does have just that little buzz going off in my head warning me that that is something that can quite easily be broken should circumstances and card design permit it.
Absolutely, Russell. I agree with the choice as well. I think it was a good one, given the lack of depth that we have in interesting cards in black. There are a few extra cards in black which are worthy of mentioning, but maybe a little bit more marginal or a little bit less interesting overall as a design direction. Bloodline culling fitting that exactly. Bloodline culling is, I would say, probably going to get played. It's just not very interesting to me. And yeah, I think just to quickly cover these, I think that Curse of Leeches to me is a good card, but it's a Wrath Protection card. So you're going to want Curse of Leeches in mono black aggro decks, should they be playable at all, which we don't know if that's the case yet. But if they are, I mean, the art on that card's really sick. We'll see when we get there. I think you might want to handle the next one yourself.
Defenestrate. I only put this one in just because of my appreciation for the word defenestrate or defenestre. So the French word for window is fenêtre or fenêtre, and this is to put someone through a window. This is a common...
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's a common removal spell which destroys target creature without flying. It's literally just someone being thrown out a window, and
yeah.
It's one of my favorite words, and I can't believe they've made it to a Magic card, and they've just made it flawlessly, and I just have a lot of appreciation both for the word and the card. So I'm mentioning this because Wizards, you do me wrong so often, but sometimes you do me just right.
It's amazing for me as well. I started the day not knowing what that word meant, and it was lovely to chat to you about that, Russell, and finding out that the flavor matched the word literally. And quite well as well. We have Graveyard Trespasser and Graveyard Glutton. This is a above rate werewolf that happens to exile cards from graveyards. We both think this is going to get played, but it isn't particularly interesting. It's sort of a less sexy Scavenging Ooze. So
yeah, it feels like, again, a little bit meta dependent if we do see a surge in graveyard decks.
I think we will. I think having a creature that incidentally hates on graveyard is going to be fine. It's going to be good, and there's enough cards in this format that seem to reward having it stay in your graveyard that having cards like that is going to be worthwhile. But at the same time, it's not like it's doing anything particularly amazing.
It's fine.
Yeah. All right, so those are our honorable mentions for Black, and we will see you back here in a second when we discuss the red cards in Midnight Hunt, and thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you soon.